Hello, are you out there? It's Mark with Redo Over, and we are back to GalCiv for Supernova. But we're not going to do a in-depth tutorial episode playthrough today. It's Mother's Day weekend, so my time's a little bit limited. I'm sure everyone out there can understand. So we're going to make a shorter video specifically about the basic districts, the basic structures that when you click on any hex on a core world, you get this little menu option. And we're going to just compare them, talk about assembling them together, the strengths, the weaknesses, which ones are really good, which ones are really bad. And it's almost, think of it like a tier ranking without doing a tier ranking. It's going to be that good, folks. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting YouTube stuff. I'm really excited. So bear in mind, you don't start off with housing districts or cultural districts. I think you have to, they're early technologies though. They're like among the first like 6 technologies. I think Universal Translator gets you the cultural district, and one other one like planetology gets you housing districts or something like that. Yeah. Or agriculture. Whatever. Bottom line is, within the first couple of years, you can get to these very quickly. But this is more or less all the ones I'm aware of. There might be some other super obscure district you can create, but these are kind of like the basic 7. Let's get started. Now, I chose just a terrestrial world. I was just trying to find a spot where I would have 6 tiles all together. So the first thing we're going to do is just go to this plains. It's a nice, flat, ready to improve tile. We're going to click on it. We bring up the 7. So I want to break this down by looking at the cost, the base effect, the level progression, and the adjacency bonuses. So let's scan through them real quickly, and let's look at the production cost of these. So an agricultural district is going to come in at 90 production, sort of in the middle of the pack. And that'll give us sort of a baseline of scale here. Cultural districts come in at 100, so a little more expensive. Entertainment districts come in at 120. They are the most expensive. And I just realized my face box is right in the middle of this. Hold on. Okay. High quality. We're not editing that, folks. Let's jump back in here. Let's try that again. So, yeah. Agricultural districts coming in at 90, culture 100, entertainment districts coming in at 120. That's a real expensive one. And interestingly, I think entertainment districts are one of the poorer options you can build. Financial districts, not uniquely, but are the cheapest of all types at a -50. Now, I've noticed many of the financial options in the game come at a very low credit cost, which is an interesting choice. It just kind of means that you can make money on the cheap, which I kind of like. Financial district is coming in at a pretty hefty 100, so it's kind of on the upper end of cost. Manufacturing districts are at 50, so again, very cheap along with the financial districts to build it. And finally, the research district coming in at 70. So your manufacturing, your research are towards the lower, cheaper end along with finance. Now, let's look at base effect, probably the next most important thing. Agricultural district. This is nice because you are getting an entire +1 food input, essentially, by building an agricultural district. When we look over here at our inputs, I guess we have farming inputs, but it's just going to add a 1 to the overall food of the planet, just flat out. Now, does that get multiplied through by the agricultural bonuses, the food percentage increases? Not exactly sure. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it. I'm always confused in the game between inputs and outputs. Food is the output. Farming is the input. So when we look at the agricultural district here, is food going to be considered an input? Let's try it real quick. We need to know. So let's just buy it outright. Here we go. Purchase. And we'll destroy this district as we need to. But let's take a quick look here. What did we get out of that? It did not increase our farming input. It increased our food. Agricultural district gives us a +1. So it looks like the agricultural district's +1 is treated essentially is a farming input. They're going to be added together, 12 plus 1 to make 13, and then it's going to be multiplied by the percentages. So a plus 10% from the agricultural district itself, and a minus 25.7% right here from the pollution on the world. There you go. So functionally, it is a plus 1 input. Functionally, as far as I can tell, there's no difference. So we're going to delete that out of there, just destroy it real quick. So yeah, food is beefy. Listen, it's kind of a mid-range. That 90 puts it right in the middle of the pack for production cost. But the fact that it gives you a whole plus 1 input is very nice. The other base effect, of course, is a plus 10% to the planet's entire food production. So as you build up more and more farming districts, you're going to get 10%, 10%, 10%. It's going to grow very rapidly. Let's jump onto the cultural district. The single base effect is a plus 10% to the influence growth. Obviously, that's just the influence growth for the planet. It's questionable if you want to go that route. I would say you would reserve this for a planet that is on your frontiers, that's directly in an influence zone conflict with a xeno planet, and you're trying to win that war of influence growth or resist being overwhelmed by a xeno's influence. You could very much think of it like building up the resistance, the military resistance of your planet's defenders. You could plop several influence districts down on a planet that's being encroached on and push back very effectively at that one planet. So there you go. Entertainment district, base effect, plus reapproval, plus 1 crime. This is a very so-so. Now, there are some synthetic species that are not affected. They don't have like morale or approval detriments, but I don't know that they suffer from crime either. I haven't played that deeply into synthetics, so if anyone knows that if an entertainment district has any real function on a synthetic civilization, it's questionable. But I don't really, as I look at the base effects, this is one of the poor base effects for the 7 basic district types, because you're getting a flat out detriment of crime, unless you're playing the Zoloxy, in which case, happy criminals. So it would work out. The more crime, the better the Zoloxy do. So to me, that's sort of like a C tier, maybe a D tier improvement. And there's so many other ways to get your approval up. So yeah, why would you need it? Financial district, base effect plus 4% gross income. Again, this is only for the planet. So unless you are making this a financial planet, that's a pretty moderate bonus. It just is. It's not that much. It's not bad. I mean, I think the manufacturing and research are going to come in at like a we'll keep going. But to me, that's sort of like a C tier. Unless you're really going to delve into income on a world, or you have like wealth icons on your world, like these little icons, you have like +3 to wealth, a couple of them. I'm not going to mess with it. Let's move on to housing districts. So housing districts, interesting because the base effect is a flat +1 to your pop cap. It's not bad. It's not really an input. So I could see if you're playing like the Mimets, and you just want to get 30, 40 population on a single planet, I could see it being very powerful. But that strategy takes a long game, and it takes a while to get developed to where all the production of so many of your pops are really adding to the overall strength of your civilization. I think in general, most of the games I've played through so far, the population has been roughly same across my civilizations. I've never gotten a Mimit game really going, although they are adorable. I really should try it, actually. But it is just a very brutal, basic +1 to your pop cap. I think if you took Urbanite, the special trait of +25% to your pop cap on planet, that may multiply through. So as you build up your pop caps from 5 to 10 to 15, and then the 25% on top of that, I guess the question is with that Urbanite trait, is it on the flat base rate of the planet, I don't think so. I would imagine it works on all the pop cap inputs. So yeah, I think that's not a bad one. I think this is actually kind of going to be like a mid-tier sort of district because it is nice to have a lot of population. You can put them on colony ships, and obviously every population produces good stuff. And eventually, when you get into some pretty specialized roles or jobs for your pops, I know there's some like religious-based ones, and there's like quantum physicists, so you can get some really potent output, way beyond just being like, I'm a manufacturer, I'm a farmer. So in a deep game like that, I could see it being very valuable. So yeah, questionable. Manufacturing district, base effect plus 3% manufacturing, plus 2% pollution. Boo! I got to put this in the D tier here, folks. The plus 2% pollution, again, unless you're like a synthetic that is just immune to pollution effects, I guess in that case, go for it. But otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty big hit. It's not 1-to-1, but it's dang near. It's plus 3 production, plus 2 pollution. And it's a small amount. That's the thing, is plus 3 to your production. I'm looking over here at this planet, and I've got 8 mineral inputs coming in from the 2 little planets feeding in. You can imagine you might get that up to 18 if you have a bunch of asteroids and a couple other little colonies feeding in. And you're just going to be like, yeah, 3% more. 3% more on like a 10 input is like a 0.3? A 0.3 on this number is not a lot. I guess if you just added up a bunch, it could get there. But okay, finally, on to research districts. This one, we can see right there in the base effect, puts it at a D tier because of the maintenance plus 1. And this is the kind of thing where you don't really, as you're playing through a game, you're relatively new to it. In the first month, you might play GalCiv 4. You're just going, no, research is king, and you're doing research districts everywhere, and you're burying yourself in maintenance costs. That plus 1 maintenance is killer. It adds up so fast. It's so expensive for what you're getting out of it, because all you're getting out of that base is plus 3 research. So this is probably worse than manufacturing. I guess that means manufacturing's got to sit at a C. Research has got to sit at the big fat D oof of just about useless. So yeah, the most potent here I would say are going to be something like your aggro district, and I would probably have to say your housing district. You just get the most for it. In the middle of the pack, you're going to have culture, situational, entertainment. I would say sitting at a C. It's not even in the mid. Financial, situational, again, I'd say that's probably sitting at around a B. So okay. Now we've talked about the actual production costs. We've talked about base effects. So let's jump into the level effects. All of these have a level effect. So we're going to jump back up to agriculture. This is sitting at a pretty hefty plus 5% per level for food. That is chunky. It's one of the better ones. So again, if you have a species that needs food, or you're playing the mimics, which are going to have hundreds of population throughout your civilization, you're going to need a lot of food. But yeah, you could feed them. And I have heard tale, I have not seen, but I've heard tale of a policy somewhere that allows you to convert surplus food each month into credits. I haven't seen it yet, but someone in the comments about a month ago was like, yeah, there's this policy that will do this. All right, okay. Cultural district. Influence growth plus 3 per level. I'd say that puts it right in the mid. That's like a B tier. It's like, it's not bad, but it's not plus 5%. Simple enough. Jump down to entertainment. Plus 2 approval. It's low. That's just a skosh, folks. That's not much. That's probably going to drop that into the C tier for me. Financial district, so plus 3. B tier. It's in the middle. I like that. Housing districts. This is, again, kind of putting this at an A tier. Pop cap plus 0.1. It's 10. Okay, hold on. Let's think about this. It's not 10%. It's just a plus 0.1. So I got to move it down a little bit because it's not as good as, it's not cumulative with everything else. So that's an important point. When we jump back up to agriculture, it is a 5% to the whole planet. Culture, plus 3% to the whole planet. Entertainment, plus 2% to the whole planet. Finance, plus 3% income to the whole planet. But housing is not a percentage. It's a flat 0.1. So you would need 10 of these level improvements feeding off each other, or just 10 housing districts spread around to get to one whole pop cap. So be cautious. Now, again, I could see the urbanites plus 25% pop cap multiplying on that. But, okay, so I would have to probably drop that down to like a C tier then, because it isn't percentage based. But it'll probably multiply pretty well with the adjacency bonuses. We'll get into that here in a moment. Let's jump down to manufacturing. Flat out plus 2% per level. Yeah, it's like C tier. It's nothing to wow about. And research district, same thing, plus 2%. Manufacturing districts and research districts are pretty similar in their function. But again, the research district with that +1 maintenance, uniquely of all districts being the one thing that has an income maintenance, makes it much worse. But nothing real special there on the levels. Now, the final thing that's worth taking a look at is adjacency level bonuses. This is how different hexes interplay with each other, magnify one another. So we're going to jump back up to agriculture. Again, agriculture is kind of king of the pile here, just about. So I'm going to slot this in an A tier for the +2 to food, +2 to population. And what that's going to mean is that this is going to interact really, really well with adjacent agricultural districts and interleaving with housing districts. Or your capital building, which, FYI, here's my capital building I just dropped over here, is a population improvement. So you build some farms around this capital city building, and it's going to help improve it, giving you a lot more income and a lot more pop cap. So your capital city should have either agricultural districts around it or housing districts around it to interplay. And agriculture is actually king of that. You're going to get so much more for putting an agricultural district with a +2 to pop next to your capital building, because again, this capital building here receives a pop cap of +1 per level. So every agriculture district you build around your capital city gives you +2 to pop cap. So if that's what you're going for, there's no more efficient way to get extra pop cap than surrounding your capital building with agricultural districts. Surprisingly, not with housing districts. And we'll get into that. Okay, so yeah, agricultural districts adjacency level bonus is S tier. There is just nothing better than that. It's going to work with a lot of other stuff. Let's drop down to cultural district. This is actually A tier, surprisingly. It gives you a +2 to influence, +1 to approval, +1 to wealth. It interplays pretty nicely. If you've got specialized buildings, like think the Beacon of Babylon, you're probably going to want to drop cultural districts around it to help boost what you're getting out of those specialty buildings. So this is an A tier for the adjacency level bonuses. And obviously, folks, you realize I'm not going to give a macro score to all these because you can't really compare them. It's not apples to apples. The different districts really are going to be on a planet by planet basis for what you're getting out of them. Because listen, you can find a precursor world, that has a +12 to manufacturing, +12 mineral input, like right off the bat, like just when you colonize it, because it's again got precursor technologies. Other planets you'll get are going to have 2 mineral inputs. So one is going to be something you're going to build manufacturing on. One is a world you'll have to manufacture on, but it'll never be the strength of it. It is similar to that. You may have worlds with tons of cultural inputs. You may have worlds with tons of wealth inputs or research or food. So I will never say that one of the districts is overall superior, but we're just looking at, by breaking down our tier ranking to the different categories of production cost, base effect, level effect, and adjacency level bonus. That's what we're looking at here, if that makes sense. So we'll drop down to entertainment district. Listen, entertainment district is coming in at a pretty cruddy, like it's like a C tier at best. It's giving us approval and wealth. This is very specialized, and it's just half of what you get out of a cultural district. A cultural district gives you approval and wealth, but you don't get the +2 to influence. So it's pretty boo. Yeah, it's pretty boo. At least entertainment districts work off of approval, FYI, not tourism. So that's always the color icons for tourism and approval are similar. They're like a pinkish magenta color, whatever that is. But yeah, it's not tourism, so it is approval. Pay attention to that. Financial district +1 to wealth. Boom, that's dropping it to a D tier. It's as bad as it can be. It's like you get a little more wealth adjacency. It's like, that's really shit. I don't want that. What's much better than that is the housing districts +1 to all. So this pops the housing district up to like an A tier. It's A tier because it's only a +1. So it's again, you would really want to like focus in if you wanted to, but it's good. It's good in a clutch, and it's going to improve everything around it. So that's not bad. But again, it's not quite as good as that agricultural district. So, but housing districts are, again, population improvement. So they'll work really, really well with food. They can also work sort of well around your capital building, but not as good as the agro. Okay. Drop down to manufacturing, +1 per manufacturing level. Yeah, that's sitting at like that. I'm going to put that at like a C tier. It's not horrendous, and you're going to need manufacturing. Every world needs manufacturing, and sort of similar with research. Not every world needs to focus on research, but you got to have a good amount of research in your game to progress. You can't run a civilization with low technology, but it's sitting at a C tier because it's just a base +1 level research. It is poor. I don't think it's as poor as financial because, but it's low. Okay, so I know that's like super basic, but I hopefully was able to like just point out some interesting things. So for me, the big ones is that the agricultural district, the most special thing about it is that it just has such a good base effect in such a high level percentage and such good adjacency bonuses. It's probably about the strongest overall in the game. I want to point out research districts have that +1 maintenance. Very easy thing to overlook as a new player, but it will cripple early civilization improvement. You almost can't afford to build research districts at the start of the game because you're going to be toying with like +2, +5 income per month. You will just flush it down the toilet with research districts. Now let's do a little bit of toying with structures and building them next to each other. Check this out. So agricultural district, I build it here on the plane. It has no level bonuses because a plane is generic. I don't get anything here. I'm not getting any level bonus. However, we know that it's going to give us a +2 to adjacent food. So now, and when I mouse down here, you can see the agricultural district. I'm mousing down here, you guys, in my building queue. It shows what that agricultural district will be before it's made. And this is a handy thing to look at. And this is going to be our central agricultural district. We're going to consider building agricultural districts all around it. So number 1 in the slot is right there. Now, let's build number 2. And what we can see is that these two are synergizing with each other now. And again, when I click on them here, I'm not seeing any bonus. But down here, check this out. We've now gotten these to reflect a +2 and a +2. And it's showing us that level 2 bonus is going to give us that nice 10%. So this allows us to evaluate combinations of different districts or buildings next to districts. And you can see what it's going to look like. You can build out your building queue 8, 10, I don't know, a lot of buildings in advance. I'm not sure how, I've loaded up to probably covering the entire lower portion of my screen, but you can like mouse over and see what it's going to do. Let's add a third one. And again, these are all basic planes that we're building on. So here is agriculture district. By putting that there, it's getting us to a +2, a +2. And down here now, check this out. This was our core. This was the middle, sitting at a 4, sitting at a 4, sitting at a 4. Why is that? Because the 3 shape is, they're all touching. These two are inputting this one. This one and this one are inputting this one. So it's equally supported on all sides. So a triple is a great basic structure to build towards early in the game with your district layouts. Someone in the comments was talking about triangles, diamond shapes. I do apologize. I don't have your name off the top of my head, but this is the valuable input our little community is giving one another about being like, yeah, make triangles, make diamonds. Don't just spread out a district here, district here, district here. And even though you might be tempted to build on the little +1 and +3, bonuses, like special tiles that get bonuses, sure, build around them if you can. But once you build off of them, then build adjacent to them to magnify more quickly. Now let's keep going with this. Let's keep going with this logic. Let's pop this agricultural districts all around. We're going to go for a full 7, a hexagon, which is obviously the most compact you can make. But check out down here. These are my perimeter agriculture districts are sitting at +6, +6, +6. And why is that? Because this one is being fed into by 2, +2, +2, 2, 4, 6. That's where that 6 is coming from. They're all 6s, except our core is now boosted to a 12. It's hard to see. I don't know why it's kind of ghosted out up there. It's not laid out to have double digits, but that's functionally about as high as you can go without specialty buildings, like some really beefy +3, +4 specialty buildings. There are buildings that will yield +4s, FYI. I think with the wealth trait, the wealth civilization trait or something like that, gives you like +2,000 credits, and it gives you a special building that pops a +4 on wealth, +4 on approval, +4 on input, or influence, and maybe one other. I can't remember right now, but it's like the best building I've ever seen. And you start the game with the ability to build one of those for like a couple, 3, 4, no, 5 Promethean. But because you're starting out with 2,000 credits, you start out with Universal Translator, you have access to the Galactic Bazaar. So with that civilization path, you can jump right in the Galactic Bazaar turn 1 and buy all the Promethean you need. I don't remember if it's like 3 or 5. It's considerable, but you just buy them outright. You go in, you build that building, and you can just purchase it outright. And I think it even gives you +20 culture points, which on top of that allows you to get your first cultural selection out of your culture tree, because you got it's a great start on a game. Wow, it jump starts you. And then that building gives +4, I think, for 4 other building types around it, 4 other input types. It's better than a capital building functionally in some ways. So it's equal, roughly comparable. So you get your capital building and you get that special wealth building. I'm getting a little off track here because we're not talking about districts, but I'm just saying there's cool stuff. There's cool stuff. I might point out that building in a short. Maybe that would make a good short video. It's like, hey guys, look at this crazy building. And then we talk about it in a rush for 60 seconds and then we upload that sucker. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't done any shorts really for this, but we'll get into it. So let's jump back down here to the agricultural district +12. This is giving us a monstrous +70% total food between the base bonus and the level bonus. And so you got to figure it's +7 total food, +70% to the food output of the entire world. Yeah, you don't need a lot of these to get an extremely powerful agricultural base for your entire civilization. And I could see doing an entire world with just food, and then you put like Kimberly's Refuge, which is like a food bonus. You could have one world just generate insane amounts of food. Do you need to do that? I don't know. I don't think food is that worthwhile in the game. But as I pointed out earlier, you could interleave agriculture with the housing districts. And those housing districts, again, will give you a +1 to all, and it'll work on that pop cap. So it really will interplay very nicely. So I guess that's probably about it. I wanted to point out the building in triangles, building in diamonds, building in hexes, and not just scattering your initial districts all over the place. But yeah, is there anything else to talk about? Obviously, certain building districts, certain district types have limitations on where it cannot be built. Deserts, mountains, volcanic rifts, interesting. But like a culture district has no limit. Entertainment, let's see, entertainment district has no limit. Financial districts do. Interesting. You can't build it in a marshland, a mountain, or a volcano. Cool, crazy. Housing districts, no limit. Manufacturing, you can't build in marshlands, wetlands, barrier reefs, or shallows. That's really interesting. I guess that really keys in more towards. So agricultural districts are going to be more limited on your barren, your desert, your mountainous, your volcanic worlds. Caution, caution, they're not good for food. That makes sense. Otherwise, yeah, finance, I'm not exactly sure why marshland, mountains, and volcanoes fall in there, but housing districts, nothing. So manufacturing is going to go less well on a ocean world or perhaps a paradise jungle world, tropical world. Yeah, probably tropical ocean paradise would have more of those marshlands, wetlands, barrier reefs, and shallows. And finally, research, no limit. So yeah, that's pretty much all the information on there. I think that's it for now. 30-minute video. If you watched, I hope you got something out of it. And I will see about maybe in the coming weeks creating some short videos that really focus in on a given cool building or whatever. Gosh, there's so much to do. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. I don't want to bombard people with like 50 shorts, but it might be a good way to really drill down on those simple things like, hey, here's a policy. It does this. Did you know that? Yeah. Okay. Take care, folks.